monthly live stream for the Thought Leadership Branding Club. My name is Bobby Omar. I am here. I'm a motivational speaker by trade, a 5-time TEDx speaker. I've done 1,000 keynotes across 4 continents for the last 20 years. And I focus on helping people get a TEDx talk to build their thought leadership brand, to elevate their personal brand, and to share their life story with the world to create meaning and impact. That's what I focus on. And today we have 3 amazing speakers, guest experts from around the world. It is Canada and England, which is unique for us because often I have a lot of Americans on it. So now it's just we can make fun of Americans. That'll be fun. Or we'll see how that goes. But if you are here and you're joining us, I encourage you to type your name, share your name. Where are you from? Share us where are you coming from? Canada, US, the UK, anywhere else around the world. Put that in there. And then the topic today is about health and wellness. Why health and wellness and mental well-being, physical and mental well-being are so important for you. And that's really what we're going to talk about. But I want you to comment down there. I'll also share some captions and things like that to let people know, what we're all about. This is brought to you by the Thought Leadership Brand Club, which is basically a membership community that's designed to help people build their digital presence, build their digital voice. We help people with LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, video content, carousel content, audio rooms, live streams, helping people get a little bit better at that. And that way they can, build their digital presence, which then leads to larger thought leadership. That's really what we're doing. That's what it's all about. And I'm going to start with actually the topic. The topic today is, normally you think, well, Bobby wants to talk about thought leadership branding, but today I'm talking about health and wellness. And why is that? Well, I'll tell you about that a little bit later. For now, I want you guys to comment in the chat box. We have some people already. Here we go. We got some people. There's Heather saying hello from Los Angeles. There's John from Canada. So people are coming in, which is great. So we do appreciate that. So that's awesome. But let's get into actually the conversation here, and I'll start with introduction. So let's start with Sumana, and then we'll go to Gav, and then we'll go to Hal. So Sumana, go ahead.
Oh, hi, everybody. I'm just so delighted to be here. I mean, my question to Bobby would be, why are we not talking about health and wellness? Why is it just, we gotta do this on a routine, all right? This is just the beginning of more health and wellness conversations. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Jeddy Wellness, and I also have another company that I'm also establishing, which is called the Workplace Wellness Collective. Passionate researcher, scientist. I worked in healthcare my whole life, doing infectious disease epidemiology and surveillance, moved into the space of workplace wellness. And now we teach solutions which are research-based, and we provide solutions to organizations, mostly medium and large organizations. And it's about just making research more fun. How do we bridge that gap between research and practice and allow people to learn, not just burnout, which is, we've talked a lot about burnout, but this is more about the culture of health and wellness and just developing those strategies at the individual level. There's work that we need to do, but also at the organizational level, what do workplaces need to do so we don't burn out our employees and we keep them safe? So that's been the vibe the last about 3 years. I'm happy to be back with Thought Leadership and Branding Club because it's been a minute since I've been on a stage with Bobby, but I'm just so delighted to be here, and of course with Hal and Gav, super happy.
Awesome. Gav, go ahead.
Well, thanks for inviting me on, Bobby. Much appreciated. Grateful to be here. Nice to meet the other guys, Sumana and Hal. I'm in health and fitness for about 20 years now. My specific niche, I guess, is, I know it's fat loss, specifically for guys. My sort of little shtick is guys over the age of 40 with kids that have maybe, we've had a conversation before, Bobby, that have, maybe put much of their time and effort into building a business, growing the company, making money, and maybe they've got to the late 40s, early 50s and thought, actually, you know what? I want to be a great role model to the kids. I realize that my own mortality is on the horizon. Maybe I need to readdress the balance and lose weight. So I specifically kind of specialize in busting the myths around health and fitness. As you guys know, there's a lot of bullshit out there at the moment on the internet. There's a lot of people saying one thing and the truth is very often very different. So I kind of like to, bust some of the myths that are going on there. Love helping people lose weight. It changes their lives. And that's kind of my shtick, really. And LinkedIn has been a great platform for me, if I'm completely honest. 95% of my business is from LinkedIn. which I love and secretly hate at the same time. But there we go. It's another conversation for another time. I'm sure you guys are in a similar position. You know how powerful this platform can be, but at the same time, if someone takes it away, what do we do? You know. Anyway, there we are. Thanks, Bobby.
No, I love that. And before I get to Hal, I just want to say, because a lot of people don't know this, when if you're Canadian and you're my age, you grew up with Hal Johnson doing his famous body break and participation type of content. Uh, I really admired Hal growing up. I thought it was really cool what him and Joanne McLeod did. And so already there's people like another Canadian friends like, oh, so cool to hear Hal. I grew up listening to him. Yes. So when I realized that Hal was my LinkedIn connection, I was like, hey, do you want to join our live stream? And then he said yes. And I was like, oh, this is great. And then we got on a call and we started chatting. And next thing you know, he gave me like over an hour to talk about and ask him questions about the history and everything. So anyway, I kind of geeked out. I was pretty excited. So I'm already kind of introducing you, Hal, but I'm so excited you're here. So please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, Bobby, the hour was my pleasure because you gave me a lot of information as well, and I hope in the future to kind of pick your brain if I can, because I'm not in the social media space as much as I should be, and I think I'm going to kind of move more into that. Basically, we were YouTube before YouTube. There was a YouTube with our 90-second body breaks. Over 36 years ago, we started. Actually, June 8th of 1988 is the day that I came up with the concept and the idea of the show, and it was really that we could all live, work, and play together. It was really that idea. My background is one that I played for that was me as a kid, and then coming up, I played for the national team and the Canadian national team, and then I had to go off and do sales, and I sold computer systems, and then after the University of Colorado, then I went and sold a computer system. So it was really, really my love for sports and athletics that got me into body break, but also that I wanted to break down the cultural and the racism in the community. So Joanne is white, I'm white and black, and so we wanted to, as I said, show everybody that we can all live, work, and play together, and that's really one of my the crux of body break. But the fitness and element, we really come down to 5 elements of keys. These are really our essentials, what we look at from all these years. So it's really been that exercise, sleep, your attitude is so important, and healthy eating, and as well as monitoring, making sure that what you eat. Those are what we call the 5 keys. And I would say that the number 1 key is attitude. If you don't have the right attitude, you can't succeed at whatever else. So that's a little bit about my background and just a little bit about what we do. And here I'm up in Northern Ontario in a place called Muskoka, and this is our gym that I'm in, and we do all of our filming, a lot of our filming for podcasts and so forth up here in the gym.
Love that.
Awesome. Thanks, Hal. And just FYI, your second image was mirror image, so you may want to look at that and then fix it and show it later. So the question,
Oh, okay.
And for everyone else, again, thanks so much for joining the chat. By all means, share, you be part of this conversation, share your stuff. This to me is really important. So let me talk about why I decided to do one on health and wellness. Because here's the thing, like I've struggled with this. I've struggled with physical fitness all my life. I'm diabetic. I have binge eating disorder, and my weight has been a challenge my whole life. And in 2013, I decided to get on a whole new platform to become more aware and doing stuff around it. And it's been a struggle, and I've had ups and downs. I've learned everything, and what I can tell you is that listening to 100 of you guys, okay, everyone's got different opinions on things. It's ridiculous, but there are certain things that no one can argue with. Like, they all say the same. They all say drink water, lots of water, get lots of sleep. Like they all say that. Okay, good. I will try to do that. So I actually get lots of sleep, but I drink lots of water and things like that. So that's one thing. But then the pandemic came, and I was having great success. The pandemic came, everything kind of fell apart, and it was horrible. And I gained 40 pounds, and one of the things I learned is that when I gain weight or when I binge eat, you know, it affects my work, it affects my brand, it affects my thought leadership. And so for me, I firmly believe that a better me is a better everything else. So when I'm losing weight, when I have energy, when I'm eating well, I'm exercising, I have more energy, I'm lighter on my feet. And I think that serves me in everything else that I'm doing too. So that's kind of why I want to have this topic this month, because I think it's so important. And so I'm hoping from you guys to share some insights on that. So I'll go to Gav first about this. You know, I know you, because, you know, I'm a man with kids and you focus with men with kids. So, you know, I guess maybe you can share some insights into, like, tell me a bit about, like, people like myself and the people you serve. What are their biggest struggles when they're dealing with their weight and things like that?
In my experience, I think as I said, the industry is so full of myths. Like you said, you've got 100 different experts, all with a different philosophy. You know, you've got the keto crowd, you've got the carnivore, you've got the high protein. So if you think of all the diets across the market commercially, and there's hundreds, some are, you know, quite valid, some are just plain idiotic. Every single diet works by one mechanism only, by burning more calories than you take in. So what you have to do is find something that works for you, as in, and when I say work, it means you can stick to, there's some sustainability, it's not harming you, it's easy to follow. And I will say to my clients when they come into my program, if you can't see yourself doing something for 12 weeks, how the hell are you going to do it for 12 months and 12 years? So anyone can lose a bunch of weight in 12 weeks because we just slash their calories, don't eat a load of carbs, exercise a load. But if someone loses 30 pounds in 12 weeks, I'm more interested in, are they going to be able to maintain that in 12 months? And this is my beef, no pun intended, with the carnivore diet, or any diet that limits or restricts or demonizes one particular macronutrient. When you do that, look, the carnivore diet works for sure, but it still works by the same mechanism that every other diet. You still have to burn more than you take in. It might be a process that would work for someone, but for the average person, do they always want to eat meat and no fruit and veg? You know, and then you've got to think, well, you know, the vegans will then say that's their best philosophy. So for me, I found is I work with the basics. I'm a big believer in balance, and that means I don't believe you should cut out any macronutrients. I believe we need good proteins, we need good sources of carbohydrates, fruits and vegetables, and good sources of fat. And then I show people the mindset around sticking to a calorie deficit. I always say the mechanism behind losing body fat, or the skill set, is very, very simple. This is effectively fat loss. If you consistently burn more than you take in, you'll lose weight. Now, if it was that easy, we wouldn't have obesity rates going through the roof, because the mindset behind this. So the skill sets is very, very simple. We can teach that in 5 minutes. The mindset, look, food is the only addictive drug-like substance that we have to have as humans. Think about this: cocaine, alcohol, heroin, nicotine. People love them, but we don't need them to function. So we've got to take this drug-like substance, you know, hyper-palatable, high sugar, high fat, salt, tasty food, and give it to someone and say, just eat enough that you don't get overweight, but not too much. You see what I mean? So that's what's very hard. So the mindset around fat loss is very, very tricky. The skill set is super simple. So it's kind of breaking down, as I said before, much of the bullshit that's out there, and not allowing people to, these sort of teams and tribes have come on the internet, like, my philosophy is the right way and yours is the wrong way. We can all, you've just got to pick a side, or not really a side, pick something that works for you. And if it's serving you, you're getting results and you're not harming yourself, and you can see yourself doing it for the rest of your life, that is the way forward. That's my opinion anyway.
No, I appreciate that. And I think the talking about the mindset piece is really, really important. I mean, how, you know, you've been working with people for 40 years on this stuff and helping people get better and make healthier choices. I mean, what are some of your insights into some of the key challenges that people have, and what would you advise them to do?
Well, what's interesting over the since 1988, there's a lot of things that have changed, and a lot of things that are exactly the same. And so I go back and actually, as I said, we're redigitizing all of our half-hour shows, all of our over 300 Body Break episodes. We're redigitizing them into 4K. So I've had a time to start to review all of the information of that. And what really comes is that there's some basics that you have to realize is that there is certain things that are the enemy that you can have occasionally and understand that element of it, but it cannot be part of your diet. And understand that the food industry is in a sense your enemy. They want you to eat more, because if you eat more, they make more money. It's a kind of just a bottom line to that point. So that's really what you have to look at, is saying that basically sugar and salt are the addictive quantities so they put more sugar, more salt. So you look at something that you'd have gotten in 1990 that you'd eat, and then you look at the ingredient list of it today, and that ingredient list from a sugar content and so forth and salt would be higher, because we become it's a more of addictive drug to us. So that's where I really feel that we have to be on guard. And what I've tried to do is in my own life is eat as much, and again, the rule is the same as it was in '88, is you go to the perimeter of the store. That is that you try to look at as unprocessed foods as possible, and look at that as making your diet. So I know for myself, a staple to my diet every day is a very large salad. When I say very large, I mean big. It's a serving of 4, and I throw everything in their brother, pumpkin seeds and spinach and all these things in. But that's a staple of the dinner, and so that's something that I think it's really important for people. As it was said, is that you got to have something that's sustainable for the rest of your life, and you can occasionally go out and have an ice cream or a pizza or whatever you want. So,
and I think that the talk about mindset is also interesting too, because I think one of the reasons I wanted to have Sumana here is because she's also someone who talks a lot about mental well-being, mental fitness, and burnout and things like that. And so I would love for you, Sumana, to comment on that in terms of how it's affecting us, and what are the challenges that we have in terms of dealing with that.
Yeah, no, I'm loving everything that Hal and Gav you're saying. I think one of I wrote a couple of words that really stood out to me, because I've been speaking about that a lot. Sustainability and how we work, right? A lot of the research that I'm doing and presenting this information is about the workforce. We have to work, we have to eat, we have to do all these basic things to survive, but the way we work has changed. So monitoring how we're working and sustaining how we work so that we don't burn out, I think that's really critical. And I'm noticing that in organizations and the people that I talk to about how do we do and manage stress, and the philosophies of stress and of performance, like none of that has changed. The research goes way back, to the 70s. There's research about stress management and performance management. Those fundamental pieces of research have not changed. But what we're looking now or noticing in the workforce is how do we adopt that to make it more bespoke. Everyone wants something different, like what Hal said, or what Gav said. We can't always just say that I want to lose weight and this is, I have the skill set. I can give you my research and say, here's all the strategies that you can apply to manage your stress in the workplace, make sure your workload's manageable, make sure that you are creating a culture of health and wellness. But every individual, every organization has different values, has different systems, have different challenges. So it's about really recognizing how do we create that custom approach. And maybe 10,000 steps for me is not enough. Maybe I need more. And maybe some other person needs a little bit less. Maybe the micro breaks that we take throughout the day, for some folks, they wake up in the morning, I wake up at 5, I go to the gym. That's my routine. I've kept that very solid as a foundation for me. But for others, maybe the lunchtime works. Maybe you need to take more walks during the day to ensure that you're getting your steps in. But it's the conversation about health and wellness in the workplace wellness space is around sustainability and ensuring that we don't lead our workforce towards this state of burnout, Because what happens is a lot of us end up quitting our jobs, going on short-term disability, taking stress leave, and then having to relearn, how do I, eat better? How do I work out better? How do I sleep better? All those fundamentals that we start to see in those symptoms of burnout evolving happens because we have maxed out. And there was actually a research that came out of TELUS in February. The TELUS Mental Health Index came out, and they said that 6 out of 10 people in Canada, there's also research out of the United States, but 6 out of 10 people in Canada are not performing in their offices at their optimal level, meaning that they're going into work, they're clocking in, they're clocking out, they're quiet quitting, they're not really feeling that they're part of something bigger, and they're neglecting their gym, they're neglecting their food, they're eating more processed food, and it's like a domino effect, which ultimately, I always say that stress can ruin your whole body. There's multiple systems that can start to malfunction. And let's be real, like the cost of living in this country and all across the world is going up, and people need a job, people need to work. And if you're unhealthy in the workplace, you're not really going to be doing any other parts of your wellness, your physical wellness, your mental wellness, your nutrition. All of those things start to malfunction because you're like 8 hours or 10 hours in the workplace are just horrid. So I'll stop there, and I'll maybe hear for some comments.
Bobby, that's what's funny. You talk about the workplace, and what triggered me is when I was talking to Bobby last week, and he was saying about how with COVID and we gained 40 pounds and that sort of thing. And I'm thinking to myself, and I've heard it time and time again, is that why blame COVID for that, in a sense? Because the number one thing I would hear all the talks across the countries that we would do, all the keynotes and so forth, people come up to us, and the number one excuse that people had, the number one was, I just don't seem to have time. I don't have time to do that. And yet COVID, what did COVID bring you? A month, you had as much time on your hands as possible. Yeah, you did have time to eat the chips, but you had time to go for a walk. You like when, after the first months when they would let you out of the house. But and that's where I come back, and not to derail the conversation, but I look at the government and saying, regardless of what country, the government was so focused on right now. Okay, what do we do, as opposed to thinking, how can we help our citizens? This is an opportunity, and I think that's where citizens individually should have looked at it as an opportunity. And that's the opportunity to get healthy. Now you've got time. I think government should, for example, not tax weights or any fitness equipment. When healthier equipment should not have a tax on it, because it's going to, in the long run, with our healthcare system and the British healthcare system as well, we pay into it. So the healthier we are as a society, the less it's going to cost. So it really, to me, is that during those, the COVID times, it was a prime opportunity for people to get fit. And the bike industry, for example, went through the roof. You couldn't get a bike. You couldn't, because people were jumping on bikes. And now the bike industry, they're getting rid of bikes. In fact, Trek, as a major manufacturer, has reduced their workforce by 40%. They're cutting down 40% of their workforce. So it's like people aren't buying bikes anymore. And it's like, well, is it because they don't have time? Because now they have to go back into work? So those are the things that I look at and say that, there are excuses that people make. But what you have to do is you have to look in the mirror and say, how important is this to me? And if it's really important that you live a healthy lifestyle and really see that it's extremely important, then you're going to perhaps live that. But I always believe that you have to have some sort of goal. You have to have something that you're reaching for, that you're getting up for in the morning, that you're excited about. I know, not to make it too personal, but I know for me, I'd say last 2 months, I decided to drop some weight. So so far I've dropped 13 pounds in like 2 months. And the only reason I'm doing that is and try not to lose as muscle tissue, is that I plan on doing a series of anywhere between 500 to 1,200 kilometer bike rides this summer. And I thought, well, let me just, bring down a little bit of the weight on the bike, so make those hills a little bit easier, but I want to keep my muscle tissue at the same time. So that's my goal. And so just I made a couple of slight changes, and upped the bike a little bit in terms of working out, and you lose the weight. So it really is a matter of motivation and having an attitude and a goal to shoot for.
You're talking sense there, Hal. Be careful, you'll get cancelled by the government. Don't say too much good information here. They won't believe you. But you mentioned the goal. The goal is huge, and one of the biggest parts that I work with, because I get a lot of people, put their hand up and say, I want to lose a few pounds for the summer. And rarely if someone wants to lose a couple of pounds for the summer, rarely do they take action. But if someone says, look, I want to lose 40 pounds, I can hardly put my trousers on, I can't touch my toes, I want to get off my medication, my wife's about to leave me, my husband's about, you need to have a massive reason why to make a difference. Because, and as you guys all know, because you're goal-oriented people, when you've got that goal and that passion, that's going to help pull you towards your goal rather than you always have to push. If you're always having to push without having a massive reason why, I tell people the very first week I start working with them, what is your reason why? I actually get them to list 10 things that they'll have or they'll be or they'll achieve once we hit their target weight. And some of the points they make are illuminating. Some people are in real trouble. And I say, great, they're those things we need to focus on. Because when things get tough, and as you know, it's not easy losing weight because you've got to control your calories, you've got to exercise more. There's going to be obstacles in the way. I always say revert back to those reasons why. And when you've got that passion behind it and that goal, and that's not just in weight loss or health and fitness, it's everything we want to achieve.
100%.
Without the goal, it just becomes a whim, isn't it? It's like, if it happens, great. If it doesn't, but when you've got that massive reason why, as Hal said, it moves you forward to that goal. That's my take on that anyway.
Again, if you're listening in, guys, this is a great conversation with three amazing people talking about health and wellness and why it's important for us all. If you want to comment or ask questions of the panel, people are already sharing stuff. Marcia's sharing stuff. Dolores is sharing stuff. We have some really great people who are sharing some great insights here, which is fantastic. So thanks so much for being part of that. I don't want to turn this into a therapy session for Bobby because I have three of you here. I could talk about so much stuff about my mindset and my excuses, and I've experienced burnout. Initially when Hal was saying, well, what were your excuses during COVID? Initially I had a trigger go up my head, which was like, well, actually COVID was far more busy for me because of my kids being at home. It was just ridiculous. And so what ended up happening was they were 9-11 and I'm trying to work on my business. Both my business collapsed, speaking in events, and I'm trying to sustain my business. And then my kids are home. And so what ended up happening is we just started resorting to takeout. That's what happened. And because it was just so crazy. And so,
but Bobby, I always look at it and I get frustrated.
No, I know. I'm telling you the truth, how I felt.
I know, but it's almost like I look at things, and it's funny. We're on the LinkedIn platform, which is great in terms of business, because I think this transcends to business. There's always a way, and every negative you can turn into a positive. You can turn it and that's where you look at what you say about your kids. Well, here's a time to get your kids that we can do together. We can get our kids together fit and healthy. And so the number one thing for a parent, you got to protect your kid, you got to love your kid, and you've got to instill values in your children. And I know for ourselves to instill in our daughter was that your physical body is so important for you to function. And so why as a family go for walks? Okay, Dave, before we get our schoolwork going, we're all going for a walk. So when you get the kids awake, it goes back, and Gavin, I'm sure you talk about this, is you got to have a plan. And so everything was thrown up in the air with COVID. And so we didn't have a plan. And so like even, you know, Bobby, I was telling you the other day, like with speaking engagements, like myself, I was going across the country speaking, and we were like, and we belonged to the same speaking bureau, National Speakers Bureau. And I called them up and I said, what are speakers doing now? And they had no idea. And so I thought, okay, here's an opportunity. So I converted my gym into a studio. So we produced TV shows out of here. So our speaking engagements came out of our gym with multiple cameras and everything. So everything there's an opportunity to do is whenever you see something that's happened. So during COVID, I looked at it as an opportunity. And in fact, we had more speaking engagements during COVID than any other time over the 35 years. So it's been, that's the thing I guess this isn't a therapy session for you, but
listen, I'm just trying to point out the fact that, you know, I understand you don't like excuses, but I also think that there's rationale behind what happens. Like for me, what happened was because I was working so hard, I was exhausted on the weekends. And I think the other thing I think is really important is this whole idea of culture. Like I would say this, and I will be very frank, my family has a culture of sofas and screens, which means we spend way too much time sitting on the sofa doing stuff and even eating dinner on the sofa and watching screens and just watching screen stuff. And I'm trying to change that narrative, change that culture, but cultural transformation and sustainable lifestyle transformation takes a long time. You know, I joined the Y this fall with the kids. We were going to go, and we started going a little bit, but then now we haven't gone for a couple months. Like it's so hard to maintain. So I'm trying to do that kind of stuff. And so, you know, that's why I bring it up that I'm like, I'm your guinea pig because I can talk about the burnout thing. Because for two falls, Sumana, I suffered from burnout.
I heard.
And I avoided everything for 2 months
Yep.
in the fall because what happened was the kids went back to school, the kids programs, and I just got overwhelmed with everything as a parent. And I couldn't deal with it for 2 years. And the third year, I was like, let me come up with a plan to make sure that doesn't happen again. And it's never happened again. I made sure to do that. And so again, throwing that out there, I want to transition to a question though, because Sumana talked about mental wellness and burnout and things like that. But I'm curious from Hal and Gav's point of view, like, you know, you're focused on physical fitness. When did you see any sort of trend around and then we'll get to Sumana to answer, but when did you guys start seeing discussions around the mental, I mean, I know you say one mindset, the mental well, but the mental health, the burnout stuff. When did you guys see that in your line of work? Gav, I'll start with you and then go to Hal.
Yeah, I'll go. So before I moved my business online, fortunately, it was almost like a premonition, not really. About a year and a half before COVID hit, I was a full-time trainer in the city of London. I guess the equivalent of London would be Wall Street, you know, the financial district of New York. So in terms of burnout and stress, literally all my clients for 10 years were these guys, you know, hedge fund guys, 7-figure earners, time poor, very rich financially. If you guys know what the city's like, it's the same across every major city in the world where people are making money, food, alcohol, drugs, there's lots of it happening. So I would say that nearly pretty much every one of my clients was burnt out on some level. That said, it wasn't an area that the way I was working, I couldn't really help them with as such. I mean, I would obviously help them with their diet, would be the main thing we'd look at, then potentially their stress levels, and then certainly asking them to at least reduce their alcohol and obviously quit all, you know, illegal drugs. A lot of guys would come to the sessions high, drunk. I mean, it was crazy. This is just the truth. So there's only so much that I could do, but in terms of actually working with them directly to reduce that burnout, I can't really sort of say I've had too much experience with it. Obviously, of course, when someone shifts 30 pounds in a 3 or 4 month period, that the stress is going to be relieved to a certain extent. Maybe it's going to give them more energy, so it might help. But I guess the direct influence I would have would be to help them reduce their drinking, and fix their sleep, really, which is kind of goes on to the stress. But in terms of actual burnout, I've never personally experienced it. I would help clients as much as I could, but it's kind of not been.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I'm bringing it up is because even in my own work as a coach and a speaker, mindset and mental well-being has become a far greater thing that I've been dealing with clients when I'm coaching them. Just for me, in the last 5 to 6 years, it's become a big part of what I do. But Hal, let's go to you. Like, when did you? I mean, physical fitness, the importance of that is important. But then, when did you start seeing any sort of need or trend or awareness building around the mental wellness piece?
Well, it's funny you ask that because Body Break is really about attitude. And so when we started Body Break and I came up with the idea, the original idea, it was really, I wrote the script, the original script. And then I thought, I've got to have a tagline at the end of it. What's it all about? And it was like, until next time, keep fit and have fun. And that's our tagline. That's what people know us by. Keep fit and have fun. And that's all about the fitness and attitude. Having fun is an attitude. And so what really happened is that when we did, that whole Body Break's always been about attitude. And so so it's a premise of that. So I have a poem. I was given a poem when I was 8 years old by my grandmother, and she told me to read it all the time. And it goes, and I did, and I had it in university, and I had it in when I worked, and I have it on my desk now. It's always been there. And it's really all about the attitude. A couple of stanzas are, if you think you beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you like to win but think you can't, it's almost a cinch that you won't. If you think you lose, you're lost. Success begins with one's will. It's all in the state of mind. If you think you're outclassed, you are. You've got to think high to rise. You've got to be sure of yourself before you can win that prize. Because you see, life's battles don't always go to the strongest or fastest one, but sooner or later, the one who wins is the one who thinks they can. And so that was really the premise of the origins of the feeling of Body Break. That poem has always been with me. That it's always trying to have a positive attitude. And with our show, if people who around the world who haven't seen it before, is that you'll see that we always shot on a sunny day. So we're outside doing an activity. If it was cloudy, we didn't shoot because that sunshine made you feel better. Like, I want to be there. That was the whole idea, is that we wanted you to come with us, join us, because you want to be here. And that's, and we always smiling and having a positive attitude. So as I said, attitude is everything.
So Sumana, I mean, obviously you're a big passionate advocate for mental well-being. When did you start getting into this? And what I mean, and also maybe you can share a bit about the struggles that people have in terms of dealing with that.
Yeah, no, I'm loving the conversation, especially all the wonderful comments. And and you're right, Gav. Like when it comes to losing yourself, when you get to that point of like, I can't do anything, I'm done. And you do get to a point with burnout. Anyone who's been in that space, you will get this feeling of like, I have nothing left to give. I am done. That battery, that classic emoji, the red battery that there's no juice left in it. That's what a lot of people say. And I was in healthcare for a very long time. And I had a different experience because I was working in the pandemic at the time. So when all my friends and coworkers and family members were dealing with COVID in their own way, I was in it, in the trenches working. So my experience was, I don't have time to think about all these other things. I got to work, I got to do my job, and I got to show up in this space, which was unlike anything I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I didn't burn out then, I burnt out before that. So going into COVID and knowing that I have no other option but to use the skills I had learned on my own through my own research to apply that at a very critical time, I think is what saved me. Had I not applied that skill, I probably would have been like all the other healthcare workers who have quit their jobs and are looking for other ways to make money. because it did burn out a lot of people who had never experienced it before. So, going back to the comment about there was a rise in alcohol, people were coping in maladaptive ways, in so many different ways, binge eating, drinking, making TikToks. Not the good kind, spending too much hours doom scrolling, right? Like just trying to find ways to escape the crazy that was even now. I think what's happening post COVID, I just messaged that in the chat box here, the sober curious movement. We're seeing a lot of it, lots of mocktails, lots of sugar-free mocktails. People are in bigger bars, bigger restaurants are offering that to communities now, because they're seeing that people don't want to drink. They're choosing not to drink. So why not make a really amazing mocktail that's probably the same price as a cocktail, but it's got all these other things. It's got like mushrooms in there, ashwagandha in there, and all kinds of other wonderful things. And people will buy the money to drink that because they are on a diet. They are focusing on their health and wellness, and they know that their body, mind, it's all connected. You want to show up and ensure that you're not going to repeat that cycle. So people who have burnt out will tell you the second, third, fourth, fifth, oh good Lord, I hope you don't get to the fifth, sixth burnout, is way worse, because you're depleting and making your systems worse, and the climb back up is harder. You might be able to get back to the gym and eat healthy the first time, the second time, but if you don't change your ways, and what, like Hal said, the mindset, the attitude, the smile, like I'm always happy, I'm trying to, that's just who I am as a person in general. But during that dark time, though I did eat well, I did exercise, I did all the things internally, I just wasn't feeling like I was doing a good job. The performance was being impacted, even though I was exercising, eating well, hanging out with my friends, all those other elements of wellness. Because wellness, I think what we're noticing now is it's no longer this like woo woo, get in a bubble bath and, sit and drink your tea. I mean, those are all good things, but the dimensions of wellness, I think, have expanded over the last couple of years, especially now that we're looking at it in the workplace. Workplaces incorporating wellness and making sure that I'm giving you not just a gym pass, which I think is great. You should give everybody a gym pass, but also encouraging you to use that gym pass, because me as a leader, I'm doing it. I'm showing up. I'm doing the walks, because if my boss isn't doing it, then why should I? If my boss is having lunch at their desk, then why should I not take lunch on my desk? Because I'm feeling like I need to do the work and I need to show up, because that's the culture. So yeah, it does go back to the culture of health and wellness. Like, how do we take these elements of eating healthy and being physically well and taking care of our body? I love that. There is nothing more important. And I will say this until the day that I die, your health is your most biggest priority. And if you're not managing your health, full all over your mind, body, everything, you're not going to do the work. You're not going to be a great entrepreneur. You're not going to be good at your job. You're not going to be healthy. You're not going to exercise. And I know how you relate to this, but those days when you go to the gym and you have a bad workout, it's usually because your mind's not in it. There's something that's giving you a bad workout, because you're like, why am I feeling like this workout wasn't good? Because there's something on my mind. So it's about adapting as well, to be like, if I'm having a hard day, I had a hard day yesterday, and in order to combat that, I'm like, I know what I need to do. I need to go for a run. That is what I need. I know what I need. Even though I want to weight lift, I can't do that. I need to go for a run, clear my mind. That's what I'm going to do. So being a little bit adaptable and flexible as to what that is, because had I done my regular weightlifting, I probably wouldn't have had a good workout. And then that would spiral me more into a loss spiral, and I would feel even more worse. So it all comes down to what we first talked about, sustainability. What can we do to make sure that we're creating these frequent and consistent efforts to be sustainable in all dimensions of our wellness?
And I think I'm trying really hard to create something that's sustainable. That's something that's important to me, because if it's not, like someone says, Bobby, do the shakes. Well, I don't like shakes. Why would I even want to do that? Bobby, run or bike. I hate biking. I don't want to run. Let's find me something else that I want to do.
Dance.
Right?
You can dance.
Right. So there's other things that I want to do. And I want to shout out to Marcia, because I pronounced her name wrong. It's Marcia. So she's there. I also want to talk about something like, for me, one of the things that I realized is that I thought having children would make me motivated to change. That's what I thought. And it did not happen. It did not happen. I started realizing that it has to come from me, from within. So one of the things that I did in the early days of my journey was I came up with a vision. And I came up with a powerful vision around me going to Machu Picchu when I'm like 60 years old, and I'm climbing, and I'm envisioning myself climbing up the top of the mountain there in Machu Picchu, where you look down at the city, right? And there's me, all silver-haired, and then right behind me is another silver-haired fox, which is my wife, who's like in her 50s, like mid-50s, and then these two young, beautiful adults who are like 18 and 20, and those are my kids, and we're all healthy, and we're on top of the hill. The sun's on our face. I can feel the heat. I can feel the wind in my hair, and we're looking down, and we're healthy and vibrant. And that vision I found to be very powerful. It definitely moves me to try to be better. And then the vision then leads to, okay, what is my plan around what I want to do? So, I guess maybe, maybe can you guys talk a bit more about having a vision and having a plan? And, let's talk about steps to get to that next pace, because not everyone's going to be where you guys are. No offense. I think it's a small step first, right?
No, well, I would say, Bobby, one of the things, before I forget, because I'm getting up there in age, so I'd start to forget things here and there. Before I forget that, in conjunction with what you're talking about, putting the plan together, is that what I said back in 1988, I would say that, it's 50% exercise, 50% nutrition in terms of your physical being. And now I would say it's probably 80% nutrition and 20% exercise. In that sense, that the nutrition is such a vital role in what you in actually getting your body together, that it's so critical. And as I've gotten, the other thing that I would say that I've discovered over the last few years, and I wish I discovered it many years ago, is sauna. And I take a sauna, an infrared sauna. I do it anywhere between a half hour to 45 minutes a day. I usually do it after my workout, and I go in and in the sauna and do it. And it is so good. Like, it from a emotional perspective, you sweat like crazy. It's all the toxins feel like they're getting out of your body. So it's really important, if you have the opportunity to do that, to do a sauna. It has a lot of cardiovascular benefits, and it's something I really have started to believe in. So those are the changes. I would say nutrition is vital, vital, vital. And if you can incorporate and have the opportunity to do a sauna on occasion, or as often as possible, I think that certainly can help.
Plunge as well. Wow. You're doing the cold?
Well, you see that lake right behind me? Yeah. That lake just had ice. It was frozen 10 days ago. So that lake was frozen, and I actually made a skating rink right out there about a month ago. So yes, I go out into the lake and I do a cold plunge after I do the sauna, and then I jump in the lake.
Alternate between the two. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. And you get your, it really stimulates your body. Yeah. I mean, it really is a powerful tool. So I only stay in the water. It's right now it's about 38 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. It's about 3 or 4 centigrade. So I only stay in there for about 5 minutes. And
really? That's good. 5 minutes is good. That's good. Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah. But look, you were saying
it feels like an hour.
Yeah, in it you can't think about anything else but that cold. You were saying about the vision, Bobby. This is the way I look at it. I just turned 50. I don't know how old are you, Hal?
I'll be 68 in June.
Looking good, my man. But here's my philosophy, and this is what I try and teach. I try and teach my clients. And you guys will know this. If you want to function well at 80 and 85 years, you can't get to 80 and then suddenly decide, okay, I want to live that longevity. And have you heard of Dr. Peter Attia? He's worth checking out. He's funny enough. I'm sure. Yeah. And he said people look at this the wrong way, because if we said to someone what would you like to be doing when you hit 80 or 85? And, you know, write out a list of things like, we would all like to be able to walk to the grocery store and buy, you know, groceries. We would love to still walk the dog. We would love to be able to sit down on the toilet on our own, cook our own food. So everyone ticks yes. But he said, well, okay, if that's what you want to do in 30 years, let's say you're 50 and we're talking 30 years out, there's a set of benchmarks that you need to be able to do at 50 that are going to allow you to do that. So if you can't do the basics in terms of strength and conditioning or cardiovascular output at 50, you ain't going to be walking the dog at 80. You see what I mean? Where people have got it the wrong way. So, and I only started thinking about this because, you know, my parents are like, they're in their early 80s now. So the inevitable is coming, right? We all know what's coming. And I think, one, I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to be in good shape. But you have to be looking at this now. So my whole philosophy is, yeah, we want to look and feel good, but what can I do that will enable me to move well at 80?
Yeah.
So the six pack used to be the goal 20 years ago. And it still is secretly. I still like it, but I want to be able to walk the dog at 85. I don't want to be in the home where someone else is taking me in the shower, you know. So I'm focusing on mobility, stretching, keeping the mindset working. I'm thinking it's changed. It's like the first sort of 20, 30 years, you think, I want to feel good, look good for whatever reason. You get to sort of late 40s, 50s, and now like we're kind of, although we still can go up, we're kind of on the slight decline. How do I delay that decline as long as possible, but also ensure that I get to 85 or beyond if I can in the best of health? So that's what I'm trying to teach my clients. Yeah, we want to lose 30 pounds in 12 weeks, which is great. That's sexy, right? We want that now. But can we put in, you know, mindset and skill set practices that are going to allow us to live to 85 and beyond in great health with longevity? So, I mean, Hal knows it, but check out Peter Attia. He wrote a good book on longevity and, you know, he focuses on that. So that's kind of my philosophy that I help with my clients.
And that's one of the things. You're right, so right, Gavin. I watch a lot of Peter Attia as well, and strength.
Yeah.
And making sure that you've got grip strength and lower body strength.
Absolutely, absolutely. Really yeah.
This is that's my dad. He's 92 and he still golfs. And
wow.
We go out and hit balls together. We do that a lot, and it's great to see as well as this is my mom and dad, and this was last year, and my mom's 90 and
Wow.
90 in that picture, and my dad 91, and my mom does 5K a day. She walks 5 on the path. She has a path, and again, it goes back to the idea that they moved in to they back onto a ravine, and there's a trail right behind there. So for my mom, inadvertently, she didn't even realize she was doing the right thing. Not athletic, not interested in any of that stuff, but she went out every day. She had a dog and has had several dogs, and she does a 5-kilometer walk the same route every single day. She does the same route every day. And it helps with mental, Alzheimer's, keeping that at bay. It helps her lower body is strong. I call her, she's an ox.
Absolutely.
She is so strong. And so she's less likely to fall. In fact, 20 years ago, or 15 years ago, she got up at night and she fell down the stairs. She fell down, she got up and took a wrong turn, went straight down the stairs, and she hit her, she was knocked out. I get a phone call from my dad. At the time, I only lived about 30 houses away. I get a phone call from my dad, and he says, "Your mom just fell down the stairs." So I said, "Well, have you called the ambulance?" "No, I called you." I said, "Well, call the ambulance." So calls the ambulance, takes her to the hospital. Nothing is broken. Like she's 70, I think she's 74 or something like that. Nothing broken at all. And they did a bone density scan of her at the time, and she had the bone density of a 35-year-old. So that's the thing that, that Gavin is trying to talk about, in terms that it's those things that you trip, but you're strong enough to hold on to something. It's those little things that we take for granted now. And I look at, taking it myself, and Gavin, when you get to be my age, you'll start to see that there's this inevitable deterioration. Your muscle strength you're not as strong as you were before. And so I try to hit the weights, and I up my protein. The older I get, the more protein I need in my body.
100%.
And so
100%.
So I'm looking at, like, I'm 220 pounds. I'm looking at a lot of protein I've got to put in a day. And so it's like, anywhere between 150 to 200 grams of protein.
Awesome.
That for my age that I have to do. So I have to put a plan together in order to make that happen. I have to eat legumes. I have to have my protein powder. I have to do these things because I want to be my parents' age, and I want to be able to do the same things that they're doing. My dad, as I said, he'll be 93 in July. He says he's going to be playing with his buddies. He's going to be out there golfing with his buddies. That's what I want to do when I'm 93.
And listen, good.
Sorry.
No,
Go ahead, Bobby.
We're getting near the hour, and you guys have been great. And there's so much to talk about. Like, there's so much you like. I'm thinking about my mom, who is old and struggling, and the mental wellness piece is something that I think about. I did want to bring up one thing that's on my mind, because I also think about my kids. I'm a huge advocate for fighting against people who are not doing enough for young people when it comes to smartphones and apps and technology. And I think that the data is overwhelming in terms of how it's negatively impacting them, from, first off, not having active living outside, not having a sense of play. But now they're online all the time, 24/7. Kids are, so I have not given my kids a smartphone. They're 13 and 15 years old, and it's a choice I've made. But the sugar thing is a choice I made as a diabetic. I say we won't have sugar in the house, because I'm one of the 10% of parents who've made that choice. There's no sugar in the house. There's no juices, no cookies. There's nothing. I mean, there's stuff from carbs, whatever, but there's no direct sugar stuff. And I'm 10% of parents. When it comes to no technology, no smartphones for my kids, I'm like less than 1% of parents who do it, because they all say, well, I want to be in touch with my kids. They have to socialize, whatever. But there's so many negative drawbacks that's been proven through the data. And it's a hard place to be, because when you're only the 1% of parents, all the other parents get defensive. All the other kids see all the other kids have stuff and they don't have it. And so it's very, very hard to do it. My daughter's furious with me for having her. She has a flip phone, but I'm like, you're not getting a smartphone. So like my son, I said, maybe in grade 11, if your marks are good and you're taking care of things, then you show responsibility. Great. But right now, no, it's not prudent. And I think it affects physical fitness. I think it also affects mental fitness. And I kind of wanted to get each of your take on this, and what your thoughts were before we close out the session.
Sumana, I'll go first, because I had a couple thoughts also about the conversation that we had about your vision, and I think what both Gav and Hal have said is perfectly aligns with research, so that's amazing. But I always tell people, if you're trying to create a plan, oh, look at this thumbs up. I always tell people, if you're trying to create a plan, then think about your quality of life, right? Do you want your quality of life? What does that look like for you in 5 years, 10 years from now? So if you don't change your ways, just like you all said, am I going to be able to golf? Am I going to be able to swim? Am I going to be able to open a can of pasta sauce? The most basic things for your health and wellness. So people forget that the more chronic diseases you have, the poorer your quality of life is going to be. And I spent most of my life learning about infectious diseases, things we can't see, the bugs, the microbiology, the bacteria, like all of those pieces that I was interested in figuring out, like, how does something that I don't see get into my body and create a whole plethora of diseases. But what's actually the problem is more the chronic diseases, the diabetes, the hypertension, the lack of mobility that we're experiencing, physiotherapy, nutrition, all of these extended healthcare activities are on the rise because lots of people are like, oh, I hurt myself doing something really basic and now I have a shoulder problem, my knee hurts, or I can't do this. Is because they've never done strengthening ever in their life, and now they're in their 50s and 60s being like, I can't walk, I can't do this. So I tell people who are working, especially the younger generation, I think for folks like me, there's something called generational stress and trauma, that we see what our parents and grandparents did, and then there comes a generation that wants to change the ways, and the Gen Zs are on their own journey. The millennials are on their journey of trying to figure out, like, I don't want to be like my parents because I see the diseases and illnesses that they have. My grandmother was not the strongest person. She died very young because she was always really frail and weak, because that was not part of their culture. It was not something they wanted to do. It wasn't something that we were speaking about. But then our generation comes in and we're like, no, we're going to the gym, we're eating healthy, we need the protein, we need, our carbs, we need our salads, we need all of these things in the house. So we're changing our ways, and of course that's going to impact our kids and the future that we have. So we have to kind of keep in mind that we need to be a role model for the new people, the younger generations, the Gen Zs, the Gen Alphas that are coming in. What do we want to show to them? So to answer your question, Bobby, when it comes to electronics, I don't have children, so I can't really speak about that, but I know lots of friends, in healthcare, outside of healthcare, that have taken the exact same stance as you have. They get a flip phone and that's what they get. There's no two ways about it. You may get to play with your tablet when you come back home for a very specific amount of time. And the folks that do get their smartphones, they only get it when they come home, or when they come home, they drop it in a phone basket and they don't get to see it until the end of the next day. So there's very specific rules that come with it. And it is very hard, but mental health for youth is on the rise, especially for women. I have seen this with children all the time. I hear stories about young girls who are battling depression, anxiety, social anxiety, and not being able to fit in. There's so much stuff on the internet. I'm so glad that I didn't grow up, dealing with a lot of that stuff, but cyberbullying is so common, especially with young women. And I think technology is to blame, because we can start doom scrolling. And what I'm seeing on my social media feed is very different from what a 14-year-old girl is seeing on her social media feed. And then that's impacting her mental health, because you're like, oh, I don't look like how I'm supposed to look. I don't have the makeup. I don't have the hair. And young women are doing all kinds of things that I'm like, don't do it. You're too young. Wait until you're 25 to try all these things. So I think it's okay as long as there's rules as to what that means. If you can manage technology, it can be an ally or it can be an enemy. So you got to figure out how you control the technology versus the technology controlling you.
Gab, what do you think? And then we'll go to Hal.
Yeah, I've got a love-hate relationship with technology. As in, I'm completely honest. I'm showing my age, and Hal will definitely know. If they deleted all social media right now, I would secretly love it. The caveat is I wouldn't be able to earn a living because my whole business is based on social media. I used to love taking a phone call. Now, if my phone rings, I'm like, who's this? Have we booked a call? And I'll text them back and go, why are you calling me? We haven't got anything in the diary. Where 20 years ago, even in the late 90s, early 2000s, it'd be like, let me phone everyone. My phone bill would be 1,000 minutes every month. Now it's like, so I hate that the way that it's come to that. At the same time, the rise of Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn, information can be spread all over the world. It's not always factual information. And the problem with it is, you've seen the dross of the internet society. It gives people a voice. And unfortunately, what Sumana was saying, young girls are very susceptible to that. Do I live up to these expectations? Am I beautiful enough? Where we didn't have that 20 years ago. And if we go back even 30 or 50 years, you were in your town or village and you didn't leave. You maybe traveled once or twice, so it's changed the landscape. So I think there's a lot of positives. Me personally, we've got a couple of young kids, 6 and a 3-year-old. They get a certain amount of screen time per day. There's no ignoring it. But they're not allowed to sit on there. We said, right, you can have your tablet for this amount of time, but then it's off, and then you're reading a book, or we're playing a game, or we're doing something. So, like I said, if someone just deleted and pressed there's no more social media, I'd be like, as long as I can make money, it'll be okay.
And I'll just say, phone. That I have a nephew who's 3 years old. When I say, "Hey, do you want to call, your aunt?" He goes like this. He doesn't go like this. We go like this, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" I'm like so old because he's like, "I'm calling you," because that's what they're used to with their phone. They don't go like this.
That's the mime, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because when I grew up, my generation, before yours, Gavin, in that sense, is that the only thing that we could see of other people doing was on Saturday night, the show Lifestyles and the Rich and Famous would come on, and we would go, oh yeah, people are vacationing or whatever. And now with the whole social media, no matter what you're doing, there's somebody doing more than you, and it makes you feel less. I know my dad told me a lot of great stuff. My dad he said to me, there's always going to be someone bigger, faster, stronger, better looking who has more money than you. So don't worry about it. And don't worry about it. And 2, don't be full of yourself. And so it was like, okay, so it doesn't matter what somebody else does. It doesn't matter. And that's really what I've tried to instill on our daughter is it doesn't matter what other people do. It's irrelevant to your life. And so, fortunately, I think we've done okay with her. She's 25 and she's kind of well adjusted in that, but it was the transition with the iPhones and all things happened when she was like 8 or 9, when that started to come into play. So we were on the edge of it. But navigating it today must be, very, very, very harmful. But again, I would say when I was a kid, and Gavin, you wouldn't have heard this where you are, but when people hear a kid yell out, car, what they were doing, they were outside playing road hockey on the street, and there was a car coming, and you go, car. That's what would always happen. And so you move the net. You move the net, the car would go through, and then you'd be back to playing again. And the people with the car were so respectful. They were glad to see the kids out playing hockey on the street. You never see that today. No
one's outside anymore. No one's outside anymore, are they? No one's outside. Well, they're looking down at their phone.
Yeah. I have a 13. Oh, go ahead.
Well, no, the final point to your point, Gavin, about a phone call. I'm, again, very old school. I think that you should pick up the phone and you should call somebody and not text somebody. You should call somebody.
I agree.
Because that tells them.
I don't, but I agree.
That tells them that you're thinking about them, you care about them. It's irrelevant to send a text to somebody or with an emoji or something like that. It's very lazy. I pick up a phone and I call friends. In fact, during COVID, I put a plan together. I sound like a planner, but I put a plan together that I thought, you know what? I know everybody's at home now, and I know everybody's not working. Every week, I called someone from my past. So every week, I would go in and try to find this person from high school, from university, from old work jobs.
Oh, wow.
And I'd call, hey, Rob. Yeah, it's Hal Johnson. Hal Johnson? Oh, what? Yeah, I know you're home doing nothing. So, hey, ended up having like a half-hour conversation with somebody that you would have never talked to in your normal life. So I talked to a lot of people during COVID that I would never have called or talked to before. So it was just, those are kind of little things. That's why I know I say COVID, it was okay.
Well, and listen, I
cool.
want to thank you for sharing this stuff, because look, I have teenagers, 13 and 15-year-old, and they basically they come home from school and they stay in their rooms on their laptops for 3 to 5 hours. Now I restrict laptop time and whatnot, but like, they do not want to go outside. They do not want to do activities. They do not want to do anything. And the biggest challenge with technology that I see is the 24/7 accessible online factor. They are always online. And even with the flip phone, my daughter gets texts from her friends and she feels need to respond all day, all evening. And it's distracting as hell. And to me, that's a huge burden it's a huge weight, and dealing with the emotional drama of what's going on. My son doesn't want to go off, like all that kind of stuff. Well, even if Wi-Fi is off, they can still get the text, right? So it's a challenge, right? I mean, I gave them the flip phones, that's fine, but it's still really, really hard. So learning. So today we talked about lifestyle and planning and visioning and burnout and strength conditioning and all those different things I do. Like you've shared some really amazing stuff. We've gone over the time. I could talk about this for a long, long time. I could probably do an entire day on it and get free therapy from you guys, but I want to mindful my time. Thank you for this. I'd love for you guys to maybe share a bit about how people can find you and maybe something you're promoting. I'll start with you, Sumana. What are you working on, and how can people find you, follow you?
Yeah, no, LinkedIn is great. I'm here all the time. The Jeddy Wellness is releasing a white paper called "The Culture Strategies for Creating a Culture of Health and Wellness in the Workplace." So we are getting ready to launch that with a massive rebrand. So we've been really busy working with lots of different clients in the United States. So finally, this project is ready to be out and about, but it's about it's maybe 20 pages, but a very strategic way to learn what culture of health and wellness means. And we've added some strategies that you can use within your own workplace, and then some strategies that my company uses to instill this culture of health and wellness using some evidence-based techniques. So that paper will be coming out soon. So Jeddy Wellness is on LinkedIn, but you can also just follow me because I will post an update about that very soon. Thanks, Bobby.
Thanks so much. Gab, go ahead.
Yeah, I have to admit, this is my main platform, so just find me, Gab Gallibrand, or if you wanted to see the actual website, gabgallibrand.com. I have got a website. I rarely use it, but it's there. It's a new one, actually. It's a good one. But if you have any guys that are struggling in their 40s or 50s, they're struggling with the weight, they've tried everything before, they don't know where to turn, if they want someone that's going to give them no bullshit, actionable steps that they can sustain as they go into 50s, 60s, and 70s and beyond, I'm their guy. Thanks, Bobby.
All right, thanks. Hal.
You can follow us on Instagram at BodyBreak88, BodyBreak on LinkedIn. Our website is BodyBreak. It's basically those are the things, and BodyBreak, Hal and Joe on YouTube. And what we are planning to do in the next couple months is we're redigitizing to 4K all of our BodyBreak episodes, 39 half-hour shows, our fitness videos that we've done over the years. We'll be putting them out in shorts, and thanks to Bobby for the opus. That was a great tip, and I'm gonna call you again, Bobby, shortly about that, because that was great. And learn
on the
more
phone,
about that.
because I'm your friend.
Yeah,
now.
on the phone. I'll call you on the
Yes.
phone, and I won't schedule it. I just call you out of the blue, and then what we'll be doing is we're as I mentioned earlier, we'll be doing a lot of cycling. So what we're going to be doing is we'll be documenting all of our cycling trips. We're going to be going from Cincinnati to Cleveland on a trail. We're going to go from Stuttgart to Vienna, which is about 1,200 kilometers, and we're going to document our travels. And so it's is more, let's say, slated to everybody, but for those of us in our 60s and going into our 70s, that you can still do it even as you get older. Joanne, actually, she's going to be running a marathon in 2 weeks. She's going to be running, and then she runs a marathon in 3 weeks. In 2 weeks, I'm going to be running the Paris to Ancaster race, not running, but cycling. It's a Paris to Ancaster race. It's a gravel race. So I'll be doing the 70-kilometer gravel race in 2 weeks. So I'll be posting that up on our channel as well.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. And a little bit of, this is the Thought Leadership Brand Club that brings you a monthly live stream. Thanks to our guest speakers. We do a weekly Zoom every Thursday at 4 o'clock. This week's at 5 p.m. featuring String Nguyen, who's a 4-time LinkedIn top voice. We do a training every single week. This week it's at 5 p.m. because she lives in Australia. But if you want to come to that, by all means, check it out. Go to the LinkedIn, go to the TLB Club website. A few things from my end. I'm running a TEDx 5-day challenge at the end of this month to help people land TED Talk. It's on April 29th. And of course, I do audio rooms twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And if you want to learn more about me and what TLB is doing, please, by all means, let me know. Make sure you follow the speakers. This live stream is going everywhere. Live streams on Facebook, to Twitter, YouTube. It's everywhere. So make sure you follow these people. Thanks so much. And if you have any follow-up questions, just tag people and ask them. You can this is available on our channels on LinkedIn, so it's available. So thanks everyone for being here. Have yourself a wonderful day. Continue to focus on your health and wellness because, again, the better you is the better everything else.